Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here on a fabulous Saturday morning here in Central Texas. We are really enjoying some nice weather after all this rain. It's been really great to finally dry out a little bit. So let's do some how do you do's. First off, we've got me. What's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. I got to hang out with me the other day. Um, he came. I was driving through. He drives truck long haul, and came to San Antonio. So him and I got to get together and hang out and visit. It's always good hanging out with the buddies and saying hi. Mike Noodle is here. What's going on, Mike? Hope you're doing well. I hope you're feeling better, brother. Where can I find a woman like that? Yeah, we'll be talking about Rick Springfield today. Now, I'm not going to go over all 36 coins in the collection that he's selling. I'm only going to be talking about 12. I think I've pulled out some of the 12 best examples. Um, what's up, Eric? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much. Tiger Stacker is in the chat. He said, "There's only one thing I have to say about today's topic. Don't talk to strangers." Hey, thanks, Tiger. I appreciate that super chat. Thank you so much. Mark Lewis is here. Good morning. Steve looking for silver. Gold Maple. All great supporters of the channel. I definitely appreciate you all. Sorcerer Stan, what's going on, bud? Good to see you. I'm going to jump back over here to multi-stream. I've got something to set up really fast. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to dig on in. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm going to do, and I want to kind of preference a little bit beforehand. So if you're here just thinking we're going to be seeing just eye candy, it's going to be a little bit different than that. We're going to actually be going through and looking at not just the coins, okay, but we're going to actually be talking about some of the history of each of these. Now, one thing about Padre Seat was gifted a membership by Eric Beyer. Outstanding. Thanks, Eric, for the gifted memberships. Appreciate that. That's really loud. Wow. Turn that. Is that really loud on your end?
Well, I don't hear anything. Just hear
Oh,
you.
wow. I don't know if it's just me. Oh, maybe it's because I have the headphones on. It might be because the headphones. I started wearing headphones so that I don't get the feedback. Okay, Atwill, Padre, Tripwit, Yoxnav, Snipey, Mikey. Thanks for the gifted memberships, brother. I appreciate you. All right, so we're all set up. We're good to go. Okay, so let's preference a little bit about what's going to happen today. So I'm going to be over 12 of the 36 coins. Now, Mike No said, no, it's a little loud. Yeah, I've got to turn that down. I've got to find out why that is so loud. Used to not be that loud, but I have to figure that out. I'm going to have to definitely adjust that volume down. I'll get that taken care of. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. But what I'm going to do is I want to bring up something because as we talk about some of these things, you're going to be hearing certain items. So let me go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this. Now, one of the first things, this is going to be fairly small for those of you who are on the vertical stream, and I apologize. I'll add all of these particular elements into my community page so that you can see all of these. But we're going to be talking about the gold rarity scales. Now that you got the Sheldon scale, in this particular case, you're going to see it's been adapted by the PCGS Coinfax. So when you hear the numbers, the basic premise of this one is to know that for their description, what's happening when we talk about this today, the lower the number, the more common it is. Now, this is a little bit different. Eric, your keyboard's coming in really hot, brother.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm typing something in the chat about.
Yeah, no worries. I'll turn that down just a hair, and then when you're turn it back up. Yeah, so yeah, exactly, Eric. Thank you for putting that in there. The university rarity scale is backwards. So I want to make sure you guys understand the difference on this because as they do this, the lower number on this is the more common. So as you get into seeing some of these coins, you're going to see R4, R5, R6, R7. And this kind of gives you an idea of the rarities associated with this collection. What's up, Dandy Dave? David Carlisle, how you guys doing? Hope you all are doing well. What's up, Nana? Hope you're doing well. Joe McBride's here. Vote for Pedro. And got a lot of great people in chat today. It's good to see you all. All right, so I want to make sure you're tracking that. That's really important when we look at this. The next thing is going to be understanding something the Bass Dunruther numbers. Now you'll see D1, D2, D5, D3. What they're talking about here are the various die measures with early gold. Now the early gold that we're looking at, 1795 to 1834. Remember that the collection that you're about to see, the collection we're about to talk about, has some amazing, and I say this very, very keenly, some amazing coins in it. So when you see this number, this BD number, this is going to talk about the die pairing, okay? Yeah, so gold maple, the universal one is opposite of the Sheldon scale. So the universal rarity on that, it's the lower the number, the more rare it is. But the Sheldon, this particular one, is something that is it's opposite, and a lot of people get confused by this. So if you have more questions like that, yeah, specifically tied to gold. Thanks, Jack. So there has to be a preference set. So I want people to know which one's being utilized here, because other people may have heard something differently. So I just want to make sure they understand this. Now the reason, and Jack, you're going to appreciate this. Good morning, by the way. There's one coin in here that I know Jack is going to love. And the reason I chose this particular coin is because of its uniqueness. And we'll talk about its uniqueness here in a minute. But some really cool things. Robert Bruce Kane, good morning. Hope you're well, doing well. All right. The other one you're going to hear about here is the Judd number. Now, the Judd numbers come after the fact. You're going to hear this when we talk about gold. But you're also going to hear this particular when we're talking about things like experimental or pattern coins. When you're looking at these ones that are or were never intentionally released. They were either proposed denominations, they were experimental designs. So you're going to see a couple of these as well. So just understand, I have to show so many of these items just to get you spun up, because this is how good this collection is. And again, I only chose 12 of these items. Now, when we talk about this, you guys know grades. I don't really have to go through the grades and talk about this, but I want this to be as complete as can be. Now, this is very important. This is something y'all may want to take a screen capture of if you're on a computer. If you're watching it on the screen, we can come back. Again, I'll make these available to you. But I put this together to help you out, because when you see things like uncirculated, that kind of gives you an idea. Or we talked about the thing that I missed on here was gem, BU, excuse me. But we talk about select BU or gem BU or superb BU or superb brilliant BU. We're going to be seeing those things as we look at various coins. And these are the various grades that are going to be associated with the coins that we're going to be talking about today. So I did a lot of pretense, and a lot of people are like, man, I don't want to watch all this. We're about to get into the coins. I'm about to talk to you about the provenance of some of these coins. I'm about to talk to you about the history of some of these coins. And remember, the coins that you're going to be seeing, they include things like quarter eagles, half eagles, the $3 gold piece, the experimental $4 gold piece. You guys know this affectionately as the Stella, one of my favorite all-time coins ever. You're going to be looking at rare coins like the Indian head eagle, the St. Gaudens double eagle, which are here because of their resonance with the artistic community. Again, the St. Gaudens double eagle listed as the most beautiful coin ever created. Again, there's some amazing coins as we go through this. Mike, I saw that you sent me something. I'll have to look at it here in just a few moments. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the history of gold coins. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show this one, but I'm not going to get into this coin for just a minute. I just want to leave this here for you. When we talk about the history of gold coins, you have to remember that most of these coins were designed out of economic necessity. Okay. We also had a time in which artistic ambition shifted to policy, right? Now, what does that mean? Well, we were trying to establish ourselves as a nation. We were trying to establish ourselves as a young monetary system. So the production of many of these coins were met with some public frustration. There were coins that people didn't like. The flowing hair. People didn't like the unruly nature of the hair on the flowing hair. There were a lot of symbolisms done at this particular onset because of things like the pharyngean cap. What did the pharyngean cap stand for? Why were there certain aspects of coins that were displayed? What were those things here? There's tons and tons of history. Not only do we have the history and the development of this, we also have coming into the 1830s, 40s, 50s, where we look at new mints and extending gold production from Charlotte, New Orleans, Dahlonega, San Francisco, Denver, Philadelphia, as they gold rushes expanded. So there's a lot of history in these particular things. Now, one item that this is the last thing I'm really kind of going to talk about prior to getting into this is the coin acts. There were a lot of coin acts that were created along the way. And these coin acts are the things that actually turned kind of process into policy. And so when we look at the weight of coins, when they first started, they were 0.9167 gold. Now, why did that matter? Well, because later what they would find is that the intrinsic value of the gold exceeded their face value. Now, why is that important? Well, because we're at a place in history where we're back to that point. So when we look at, and I don't know why Rick Springfield is selling this. I talked to Eric about this. I wasn't able to actually find out the specific reasons of why he was selling these 36 coins. But I can tell you from the early 1800s to 2025, we're at a point to where the value of gold in many cases is meeting the point of some of these numismatic treasures. Now, these are obviously scarcities and rarities, so these are outside of that. But we're at a point because the value of gold is so high, we potentially risk seeing melt-offs again. Because again, if the numismatic value doesn't trump the precious metal value, you see these melt-offs. And these melt-offs throughout history are one of the reasons many of these coins are so scarce or rare. All right. So I had a lot of pretense, a lot of kind of upfront to kind of talk about that. There is another thing that many people may not know about. You obviously know about PCGS, CAC, NGC. We talked about the rarities. We talked about that. But there is one you're going to hear that I had never heard about, and that is the collectible market qualified stickers. Now, these collectible qualified stickers are found, and if you go look at the Stacks and Bowers auction, you'll see this where they try to identify the highest quality grains in the market specifically to this. David Hall and Greg Roberts, the CEO of Stacks and Bowers, created this specifically to make sure that if somebody was to buy these, they could buy these sight unseen. So as you see in some of these, you're going to see this CMQ, and that's what it's referencing. So again, with all of these coins, Many you're going to end up seeing in collections, these registry sets. And this is just another one of those things to help the buyers who can afford some of these premium coins to be represented with professionalism and uh, uh, financialization and fiscalization of that rare coin without actually seeing the coin in hand. Okay, so just so you guys are tracking and knowing that. All right, let's dig in to these coins. I'm excited because I got to tell you, for 2 days I've been looking at this collection, trying to figure out 12 coins that I can pull out that are really interesting, trying to pull off some of the designers, what happened with these coins. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I enjoy talking about these because this is a pretty freaking awesome collection.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say how you could mortgage your house to secretly buy one.
Uh, some of these I couldn't mortgage my house high enough.
Right.
Okay.
Well, maybe you can get two mortgages.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's not talk about going into debt for coin collecting. Yeah, not a smart move. All right.
No.
1796 capped bust. This is a quarter eagle. The designer on this one was Robert Scott. Now, the obverse features this liberty facing right, adorned with a soft cap. Now, the soft cap is a little bit different than the Pharyngean cap. You'll see the inscription Liberty up at the top with the date 1796. Now, this was also, at the time, this was referred to as the turban-like cap. Again, we talk about, the Mercury dime. It isn't actually the Mercury dime, it's the Wing Liberty. But again, so they all had their funny names. So this one was the turban-like cap. And it was identified by the Mint Director in 1825 as a fashionable headdress in the 1790s, worn by a very famous woman. And who was that woman? Well, the one and only Martha Washington. And so this was a call out to Martha Washington. Quite interesting. I never actually knew that about this. If you look at the back, you'll see the Great Seal of the United States. I didn't show the back of the coins on some of these because the one that I do is very important, and I want you to understand that. When you look at this one, the one that is the defining factor on this one, as stated in the text on the right, there's no stars. This makes it unique because the ones that were intended for circulation included stars. There are also stars incorporated on the reverse of the eagle. However, in 1796, it was modified to include stars. There were 16, and then it became 13. So you'll see different varieties. And again, as we look at that PCGS coin facts grading scale, you'll see those based off of the rarity. So when you see that PCGS number that goes above 8, understand that that's related to the different varieties and things that are associated with it. The mintage, really, really low. 963 pieces. It's considered extraordinarily small, obviously. And it contributes to its rarity. And if you see the rarity 4 here and you go back to that rarity chart, you'll see that in that rarity chart, that rarity 4 is between 76 at 200. Now, this is really important. You guys have heard me talk about rarity and scarcity. Okay. Hey, Elsa Olson, good morning. How are you doing? They're saying that the Springfield collection is estimated total value of 580,000. It's probably going to be bigger than that. I think that's a soft estimate. My final guess on this is going to be closer to 720, maybe 800,000, depending upon how 2 of these coins that are extremely undervalued. We'll talk about a couple of those. But yeah, thanks for putting that in chat. I much appreciated. For those of you on the other side, she's in the vertical mode. So if you're wondering, I didn't see that comment, it's because she's in the other side. All right. So, but again, we're talking about 70 to 200 of these. Why is that important? Well, because as gold was coming into place, that extremely high 0.9167 gold, the melt-offs of these were pretty high. And so it's one of those things where because of that, a lot of people would melt these later on. So the fact that they're surviving members, and this is an AU50, points to a pretty decent coin. Now, because this AU50, again, you'll see some flatness on the surfaces. You'll see some basic rub on the high edge of the design. But this is one of the rarest type coins in all of the numismatic lore for the US. It is a 1 year only design, and it's definitely something that collectors are going to be looking at. When we talk about the rarities of some of these, if this goes like it went back in the early 2000s, the late 90s, if the right couple buyers get on, that $580,000 mark could be blown out of the water, because if you look at some of the MS-65s, they sold at $2 million. Now, this one obviously isn't going to go that high. This one probably would fetch around the $180,000 to $250,000 mark,
Yeah,
depending upon. Go ahead.
Going to interject that the 1796 with stars, most of them are going between $150,000 and $350,000, depending on condition. So this is going to blow 500,000 out of the water.
Yeah. So, and again, when you're looking at some of these estimates, again, these are soft estimates, right? They do this because, well, number one, they don't want to say that a collection's worth, 1.4 million, and then they only sell it for 600,000. They're going to always underestimate that to safeguard the company, because if it goes big, then oh my God, we had an astounding auction.
That's
right.
right.
So they underbid these things for a reason. They undervalue some of these for a reason. And if you look at PCGS, if you look at the coin facts, if you go to Stacks and Bowers and you read some of the provenance history on some of these coins, they will tell you that some of these coins throughout history didn't sell anywhere near what they should be worth, because of the rarity or the conditional rarity. We'll be talking about conditional rarity a little bit later on. But this is a really cool coin, and I thought this was really cool. Again, the first gold coin, 1795. So this is only year number 2, and for it to be one of the first early patterns and such a cool variety, I figured that this definitely warranted a spot on this. All right. The next one, the 1808 capped bust. Now, this is rarity 4. This is extra fine. And I got to tell you, an extra fine 1808, I think it's cool, because you think about how many potential people this could have gone through. You think about the dies that were hand created, some of the problems they had with minting some of the first original coins. When you think about coins and you're talking about the 1808, the average salary paycheck is $4 per paycheck, right? Between $4 and $10. If you run the higher end, every 2 weeks, you might get as high as $6. If you were some of the top paid workers, then you maybe make $10. So to hold a quarter eagle and to save it in your collection didn't really happen very often. And when you look at the price for these and you look at the gold content of these, you can't help but understand why people would have melted these and turned them into profit. Again, this was something that was very common in the early days until the I think it's 1836 or 1853. One of the 2 years, I can't remember which one, was they stopped allowing foreign coins to be traded as normal currency. One of the reasons for that is they would melt down the U.S. currency, and they would rely on things like the Spanish real, aka pieces of 8, right? And so they would use the foreign coinage and melt down the U.S. coinage because it had more value just in the metals. So when we were talking about the rarity and the scarcity of these, the fact that any of these really survived some of those early years are quite amazing, and I mean quite amazing. Now, the design for this one is attributed to a guy named John Reich. He had his distinctive signature. Now, if you look to the right of the 8, you'll see that bottom star kind of looks like it's a little bit beat up. That's actually his signature mark. He actually put his signature inside that tiny notch of the outer point star of the 13th on the obverse. This was the design first introduced on the half dollar, the half eagle, 1807. It depicts Miss Liberty wearing that loose cloth cap known as the mob cap or the Phrygian cap. We've talked about the Phrygian cap in other videos and stuff like that. But again, it's it's a representation of freedom, right? And it's actually attributed to Rome, but it happened way, 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 way before Rome. But slaves were given this when they were given their freedom, and they wore this to show a sign of liberty. So it's actually very representative of our young nation being free and declaring its independence. You'll see on the reverse the 2.5 D. It didn't say dollar; it said 2.5 D on the back, making it the first denomination that actually was explicitly stated on a quarter eagle. Again, you look very few examples of this that were struck. The mintage of this was 2,710 pieces, but it only had one die marriage, and this was the BD1. Again, we talk about this. So there's only one die pairing for this particular date. So whenever looking at coins like this, obviously, there's not going to be too many people in chat that are going to be able to be buying and affording this type of coin. There may be a few of you, and if you ever do, understand there's only one die pairing. The die markers are very clearly marked. They're very clearly discussed, and you're going to want to make sure that you're going to a very reputable dealer if you're ever looking at a coin like this. Again, you're looking at EF40, talking about price. Mint State 65 version of this, which is the top pop, sold in 2015 for 2.3 million. Obviously, there's a number of these that still survive 20 to 200, somewhere in that. But even in the EF40, it is a significant rarity. Again, more scarcity than rarity at the EF4 or the EF40. But again, in this particular case, there's still going to be a fairly decent demand from some top-end collectors on this particular coin. Gold maple, the Phrygian cap, was a symbol of freedom, also common in French and Mexican coins. Yeah, exactly. And it's very clear. You'll see this on early coins that are celebrating their independence, or if they're celebrating certain events, you'll see the Phrygian cap. And so this is a common staple. We even see this in the Morgan dollars. The Phrygian cap. A lot of people don't realize that the Phrygian cap is on the Morgan dollars. So we've utilized that in some of the other elements that talk about freedom and protection, the shield, the Phrygian cap on the stick as a flag. There's quite a few of those that are there. Anyway, absolutely fabulous, fabulous coin. The next one we're going to look at is the 1825 quarter eagle, rarity 4+. Now here we start getting into the Pileus. Thank you, Mike. In Rome, it was called the Pileus. Outstanding. I knew there was another name for it, but I couldn't remember what it was called. This one is rarity 4+. And again, the bigger number, the rarer it is in this particular case. But this one is one of the nicer ones that we're going to start to see. We're going to see this one, MS65. Now, this is the cap bust. Again, we're talking about left facing. Represented the continuation of the product after a 12-year hiatus. So they didn't do the quarter eagle, 1909 to 1820. Again, John Reich is the developer of this one, who minted from 1821 to 1834. It is similar, but it has a smaller diameter. You'll also see that in this, because of some legislation that occurred, we started to see that 91.67% gold. This is one of the last coins that you'll see in this series, because it changes in 1834, and you'll actually see that number, that percentage of gold drops because of this rampant melting that was happening during this time frame. Another thing that you'll see that's very common with this is the overdates. Now, you'll see a lot of overdates in these particular coins because of the reusing of dies. Now, we're going to be talking about one die specifically because the dies didn't get wore out like they do today. I mean, they wore down a little bit, But because they were minting such small quantities of coinage, you actually could see, like, for instance, this coin only minted 4,434 pieces. So it would have been nothing for the previous one that, they did, less than 5,000 for them to just change that 4 to a 5, and then you stamp that over, and now you have that 4 over 5, or that 5 over 4 overdate. Okay. Now, this particular one had a couple different die marriages. This is the B1, B2, and B3. This particular coin is the BD2. It's fairly common, but despite the commonality, again, because of the condition that it's in, it's a conditional rarity. So again, we're looking at um, these coins. Maybe there were quite a few of these still around. It's expected that there's about 237 of the BD2s, which state that there's probably 100 known examples between the various censuses, NGC, PCGS, um, maybe a little bit higher. Um, but I think there's only 4 that grade higher than this particular one. One of the highest is a MS66. And the MS66 at auction went for, uh, oh, I did put that down. The MS65 sold in, um, oh, I didn't write down the date.
On the PCGS value on these coins, most of them are teetering from 200 to 600,000.
Yeah, this one in the
minor
PCGS and the NGC price guide, they switch about $40,000. On NGC, it's listed about 195,000. PCGS always is about 8, 10 to 12% higher, so it's about 225,000. But I didn't write down the auction thing. I wrote down the auctions for all of them. For some reason, I didn't write the auctions down for this. But I expect this one to go for probably a quarter million, probably somewhere in
Yeah,
that
I
range.
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, maybe a little bit higher because of its conditional rarity. And again, there's only 4 that are higher than this particular one. And it does have the 4 plus. Now, why does that matter? The 4 plus, now the same thing happens with the stars. There's a lot of people who love to collect the pluses and the stars just because it says this is a 65, but it's got exceptional luster or it's got an exceptional strike. And so a lot of people like to have that. So the plus actually might yield a higher sell. And this is one of the few of the coins that we'll talk about through here that NGC and PCGS both in their sites have said that they consider this probably undervalued with the coins that have been sold in the past. So yeah, again, amazing. And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. I'd appreciate it. I'm only 77 away from 6K. So if you guys can help me get that little boost, let's get to 6K. That would be awesome. Definitely appreciate all your guys' support. The 5 does look wonky, but again, it's an overdate. And so it was stamped over. You'll see this in a bunch of different ones. You won't see it in this particular one, but there are different stylized numbers as well. So even within the series, you'll see different numbers stylized. So it's very important when you look at this that you research and try to understand which 5 it is or what overdate it is, because overdates in this early up to like 1830s was pretty common, right? It's just something that happened. All right. Now let's get to the next one. Rarity 5. Okay, so we go back to the Rarity 5. We're looking at a huge difference from scarcity to now we're talking about rare coins. Now, when we talk about the R5, we're talking about only 31 to 75 are expected to be known. So we're talking about very, very, very small numbers. And not only are we talking about a very, very small number, we're talking about a coin that grades in at MS66. If you look at this strike, it's gorgeous. I mean, like fabulous, gorgeous. This also was designed by Jean Reich. You'll see that a lot of these earlier ones all are accredited to him. But again, these really got hammered because the economic reality of the times is that the gold was more valuable than the coin. And so these ones suffered subsequent losses at melting. And you'll see that a lot of these they just aren't around. And if you happen to see one, most of them are going to be in fairly decent condition because the people who kept them, didn't circulate them. They actually kept them pretty well. The mintage for this one, 4,160. And again, when you're looking at the mintages between some of these earlier ones, anywhere between 2,000 and 5,000 pieces was common, especially when you look at 1829 to 1834. 3,400 to 4,500 pieces annually was common. This particular coin is a BD1. Now, there's only one die variety for this. Its distinctiveness is attributed by only having one die, and it actually had something that is really unique. So now if I go through and I show this reverse, where's Jack Riley, Jack Young? You guys still in here? This is something you guys can appreciate, okay? And so when we talk about die marriages and we talk about die pairing, and Eric, we've talked about this with pennies, right? It's very important that you don't attribute a coin by looking at one side. You look at both sides, you find the item, you find the variety, and then you attribute the coin, right? 949 just gifted 5 memberships. Thanks, 949. Sorcerer Stan, Inkman, Bellows Forge, Bo Palmer, and Gremlin. I've got to figure out the sound on that. Holy crap. That is really loud. Give me just a second. Let me figure out what the hell is going on with that sound.
Sorry, had myself muted.
Let me turn this down. Okay, let me turn this down. Tell me if that's better. Is that better on your guys' end? Hopefully that's better on your guys' end, because
sounds good here.
Yeah. Holy smokes, it was really loud. I had to turn that down. It was blasting across the screen. It's like, oh my God, that's so loud. Okay. Yeah, 949, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, much better. Okay, perfect. So why did I show this? And so Eric, we talked about this before, right? You don't grade, you don't select a coin, you don't grab it, you don't look at one side and say, oh, this is this. Because reverses, obverses can be used in multiple years, right?
Right.
And so
even on Lincoln Cents, they do it.
Yeah, and so you want to make sure that if you're ever looking for a variety, find the variety first. And one reason this was so important is because in looking at the reverse of this 1833, when I was reading this, I was like, holy crap, they used this reverse from 1830 to 1840 or 1834. This exact reverse die, there's only one of them for that 4 years, and it's this one right here. So,
and what's the total number of mintage between 30 and 34?
So it's between 12 and 18,000.
Yeah, being gold is so soft, that doesn't surprise me a bit that they could get that many strikes out of it, even in that era.
Yeah, don't worry about the boing. I tried to turn that down earlier, but it's just like, oh my gosh, that's so loud. I had to turn it down. I want the sound to be there because I want everybody, including myself, to be notified when somebody subscribes or when somebody drops a membership or super chat. So I have it there for a reason. It just, God, for some reason, it reset to maximum volume, and that was loud. So, but again, I wanted to share this reverse because, again, you're talking about something that came across 4 consecutive years. Now, why is this important? Well, as Jack Riley, Jack Young, and some of those folks, Eric, when you guys are looking at attributing a coin, you really want to know these die pairings. And this die marriage, every one of these die pairings, even if there's only one, in this particular case, there's only one, but it's the same reverse for across 4 years. And I found that very interesting because when you're dealing like Eric just said, dealing with gold, you're talking about a soft material. You're talking about mintages between 2,000 and 5,000 each year. So, at max 4 years, they're talking a max of 20,000 coins. But you've heard that I've talked about some of these coins that we're talking like 4,200, 3,100, 2,100. So we're talking a range of coins that is under 20,000. And you're looking at a coin that grades at MS66. So not only, and you can see down at the bottom of this coin, you'll see a little bit of metal flow around the edge where that die state's a little bit longer in the tooth. But again, it's a great coin, but it's MS66. So it didn't really affect the rarity on this one. Again, it comes across as superb BU, fabulous coin. There's only a couple known finer that came across as an MS66 plus. And when you look at the setting of these, the die pairing does matter. The die pairing for a BD1, R5 MS66 from the Brent Pug collection realized 129,000 in a Stacks and Sotheby's auction. A few years later, MS66 Plus in a PCGS by the Pogue collection, another sale, 2015, 176,000. The auction record for the 2.5 was 125,000 MS67. It was sold by Superior Galleries in 2002. So this particular coin, I wouldn't expect anything less than 170 to 200,000 for this particular coin.
Can I interject something, an assumption, and kind of a question?
Yeah, fire.
When they do some of these, I'm trying to think of the year. I want to say 1833. I think there's one in the auction. You have different size busts because they're different dies. What people don't sometimes understand is that these dies were hand carved. So the head or the bust might not be exactly the same. And I think this even goes back to ancient coins. You'll see some that are real elaborate, and then you'll see some that are real kind of just bland. It's because each die was carved by hand. Like these letters, they're all stamped in by hand on a lot of these dies. The date stamped in by hand.
Agree.
And that's my assumption because I've never found any facts that actually kind of say that.
Well, remember that, it wasn't until, actually, you know what? Let's do this. Okay, I'm going to give away, you can't answer. Okay, so let me put some preferences out there. Jack Riley, you can't answer. Mike, you can't answer. Eric, you can't answer. Paula's not in the chat. She's doing good, by the way, after her procedures. FYI for her. Reed, please do me a favor. Reach out to Paula. Tell her you're thinking about her. Tell her you love her. She would appreciate that. But those you guys can't answer. If Jack Young is here, you can't answer. What year did they stop hand stamping the mint mark into the dies? What year did they stop hand stamping the mint marks into the dies? And I know you know this, Eric, because we talk about it a bunch.
Yep.
So can't answer. So why do I say that? Nope, gold maple. It was way, 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 way after that. T-Bird, 1959. Gold maple, 1856. Keep going, folks. You guys might be surprised by this. Red silver, 1974. Dan McCumber, 1989. 1897. 2001, 1954, 1938, 43, 49, 55, 05. Keep going. Somebody's going to get it right. If you have to Google it, Google it. I don't care who does it. We'll keep going until we get an answer. Well, I'm just going to keep talking. But the whole premise behind this is that they hand stamped a lot of these things for many, 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 many years. Okay. And so there were a lot of these things. We talk about repunch mint marks and stuff like that. They can't happen after a certain point.
Now that's a trick question. The repunch mint marks. And it depends if you're considering only circulating coins or if you're considering any mint product, because there are still possible repunched mint marks being made at the mint, but they're only on the brass metals. When they decide to mint them at Denver, they still hand punch the mint mark. That's a caveat. That's probably a useless piece of information.
No, that's okay. So what year was that, Eric?
I can't even, like right now, you can to this day, but I think there's one 2018. There's an RPM in the metals. Let me find out what their exact metals are.
So let's do this first before we go there. What was the last year that they actually started? They
accepted last year is 1989.
1989. So who was the first person that got this? Was it Dan McCumber?
I think it was.
Yep, Dan McCumber. Okay.
And there is arguments that the half dollars were hand punched until 1990.
Yeah, Red Silver, reach out to me as well because you were on the other side. So Dan McCumber and Red Silver, you both are going to get one of the Frostbyte coins, poker chips. So email me, let me know that you won those, and then I'll get those out in the mail today. So thanks for playing. I appreciate that. But the point of this is that for many, many years, they hand stamped a lot of these things onto the dice. And so what Eric is saying is extremely important because, but again, I just liked this reverse. I like the fact that it's important as a reminder that when you're looking at these particular coins, that you understand that multiple reverses, multiple obverses were used multiple years. And so don't ever just look at the markers to try and identify a coin. Identify the coin first and then use the markers to validate and verify it. Really important when you're looking at these. All right. Now, I had to make a choice for Frosty's top pick. And for story, this one was very tough for me because I love the $3 Princess Gold. Love it. Absolutely love this piece. I actually know other people who love this well. I think, hey, Miss Coin Crew, how you doing? I actually think Coin Crew, he likes the Princess Gold as well. But there's a number of people who like this particular coin. It's very neat. There's a couple different varieties here. The cap size is different, type 1, type 2, type 3. And they're just fabulous. I have I have two of these. One is my birth year, 100 years of my birth. And then another one is for my sister, 1873, 1874. And so it's really cool to have coins like this because, again, this is why people start, getting into this. So this one is really hard. Did this one win my top story award or did it go to another one? And I had to choose a different coin. But when you look at this, it's MS67 proof like $3 gold piece. And this was a really unusual denomination. Now, I looked at a couple different pieces to try to find out the provenance behind this. And I found a lot of conflicting stories about this. What I was able to find is that it was designed by James Barton Longacre. You guys know him from another famous coin. And again, you look at the headdress, Liberty, you see the United States of America, you have the $3, the date, and it pretty much remained consistent. There were, changes in the size of dollars and there were changes in the headdress. But there were conflicting discussions about how this coin, it's a freaking fabulous strike. Fabulous. This is something that looks like it was struck last week. I mean, seriously, it's an amazing, amazing coin. But one of the things that I found, and I love this theory, not because it's true, but not because it's, something that I like, but because of two other coins that happened during this time frame, and that's the 3-cent nickel and the 3-cent dime. The purpose of those particular coins were because of stamps. Tiger Stacker, $4.99 super chat. Thanks, Frosty, for buying that gold for me. No problem. Just make sure you eat it before the chocolate melts, okay? Hopefully he doesn't laugh too loud.
It's
I
funny
think
you
he's at
bring
work.
that up, Frosty, because that is how Rick Springfield began collecting coins
It is. I was going to talk
with
about that
gold
later. That's
foil
exactly right.
chocolate.
Yep. He used to carry around the little nets with the gold coins in it. He wouldn't eat them. He would save them. Yeah. Very cool story. I love the BCGS or the excuse me, the A&A and Stax Bauer interview. It was fabulous. Quite the cool um quite the cool thing there. See here. Big Dummy 71 just subscribed. Thank you so much for the subscription. I definitely appreciate that. We're creeping up on that 6,000 mark. You guys keep subscribing and supporting the channel. Again, I don't ask for super chats and all this stuff. I appreciate when you guys do it. But man, subscribe and watch the videos. That's all I ask for. But anyway, back to this $3 gold piece. The thing that I liked about this was that one of the conjectures is that this was introduced to buy the 100-cent postage stamp pages. So you could buy it in sheets of 100, and then you could utilize this coin to actually buy that sheet. Now, this story, I couldn't find confirmation on it, but when you think about the 3-cent nickel and the 3-cent dime, that's the exact purpose for this. And why would you not have a $3 gold piece that was exactly 100 times the price? It just makes perfect sense. And I love the 3-cent nickel and the 3-cent dime story because we talked about the utilization of money to fill a need, a niche. And again, you know, people back in this time frame, they collected, but most of these people had to utilize these for a specific purpose. And money fit that purpose. And when that purpose was no longer fit, they got rid of it. And so again, you're looking at the gold dollars or the stuff like that. For Sacagawea, again, they used them in vending machines. There was a purpose behind the need for that, right? They, instead of building tokens, they created dollars. So I like the stories behind those. But what's really cool here is the coin you choose makes a huge difference in value. Now, why do I say this? Well, because they saw limited value, or excuse me, they saw limited circulation from the Philadelphia coinage. But these pieces were also struck at Dahlonega, New Orleans. Now, it was only New Orleans in 1854, and then San Francisco. For this particular year, there were about 4,850 pieces. But again, we still see lots of melt off. Now, in this particular case, there was less melt off because they had changed from that 0.9167 to that 0.671. They actually reduced the gold content because of the melt value. And doing that actually started to save the gold coin. So you'll actually see more gold coins after the 1830s into the 1840s because now the gold value no longer exceeded the value of the coin. And that was really, really important because, again, in 1834, with all the melting and, you know, issues with the acceptance of this coin, because, again, a lot of people only liked it for a very specific reason. A lot of these in really high grade, high dollar value, they just were kind of left to the wayside. So when we look at values on these, when you're looking at the 67 proof-like, the Richard Jewell collection sold for $46,500 in March 2005. The Brent Pogue collection, you'll hear that name a lot in this particular set because I think that Rick Springfield bought a number of those from him or traded, or they were part of a bigger collection. But because of its quote unquote extreme scarcity, sold for $80,000 in MS67 in 2016. So this one, if the right buyer is on the hook, if they get the right person to do this, this coin could easily fetch 100 grand. Okay. Now, again, I don't know for certain, but when we talk about the increased price in gold, between 2016 and today, or 2005 and today, that's going to carry a lot of weight when it comes to the price of the coin. So I think you're going to see this go pretty high, substantially high, actually. So just be aware of that. Getting a lot of subscribers coming in. Thank you for those of you who have subscribed. Much appreciated. I would love to get that number up. I appreciate all your guys' support. All right. So let's dig in to this next coin. Okay. Drum roll, please, if you will. This is Frosty's top pick. I had to choose this one over the other one because, folks, out of all the gold coins, I only have two that I really absolutely love. And here's one of them. She's my sweetheart. I would love to have one of these. Unfortunately, earlier we talked about mortgaging a home. And this is one that you'd have to do this. This is the $4 Stella. Okay, this is an amazing coin, and I've got both the reverse and the obverse on here because it deserves it. It's a fabulous proof 65. Now there are a couple of things about this particular coin. Unfortunately, they talk about some scratches on the face. There's a couple in the field. There's one little mark on the obverse and a little bit of reddening. You can't really see that in this image, but there's a little bit of ring of reddening in the 1879. And it kind of dropped the price a little bit. But again, you're talking about proof 65 on a Stella. Freaking unreal. Now, why did I say this one wins the story? Well, because this story is confirmed, right? This was originally created and proposed by the Honorable George A. Casson, the U.S. Minister to Austria, excuse me. And the purpose of this was, hey, why doesn't the U.S. generate a coin that is convenient for travelers? It's practical. It's something that would do great and easy exchange on the coin. And you can see here on the reverse, it tells you exactly what's going on in the metallic structure in the metric system. So they could look at it. They would know exactly what it was. They would be able to identify it. And when they were traveling to places like France, Germany, Austria, Bavaria, things like that, these things would be easily transferable. They would go. They didn't have to worry about turning them over. The people that they were taking them to would see this. They would know that metric conversion. They would understand its value. And again, it's just a neat story, let alone a phenomenal coin. Now, when you're talking about Stellas, there's an important distinction to be made. There are two distinct obverses in this. You have the flowing hair type, designed by Charles Barber.
And that's obvious.
Yeah.
This coin is obviously a Barber coin.
Yep, exactly. And then you have his favorite other person, George T. Morgan, who did the coiled hair. Now, there's a little bit of discussion about the relationship between Barber and Morgan. A lot of people say there were a lot of frustrations and arguments with design between these two. They were both very staunch about stuff, but Barber didn't like a bunch of people in general. Barber was a fairly unagreeable man. And so they were cast to design two of these, but there was something that happened because of this coin's, it's technically a pattern coin, but because of the mintages, they actually made quite a few of these for it being a pattern coin. But because of where this was distributed, it developed what they call a quasi-regular issue, like the Flying Eagle cent, right, or the Gobrick silver dollar, that kind of turned it into a regular issue. There were so many of them that they weren't technically accepted as a circulating coin, but so many of these were out there that people maintained them. And because of this, they have a high value, a low rarity, but the value for these is through the roof because the quality of most of these are very nice, let alone the desirability of this. Now, we talk about this again, desirability, scarcity, and rarity. This doesn't fall extremely high on the scarcity and rarity, but it does on the desirability. And the desirability often in numismatics is that thing that will take you to the next level. Sorry, my mouth started to get dry. I had to take a drink. Now, when we look at these respectively, there were 440, 450 pieces when we talk about the coiled hair. When you talk about the flowing hair, you're looking at about 425 being struck. But a majority of these were distributed to members of Congress. Now, they were distributed for a couple different reasons. Gifts, they were designed for the team to examine, to look at, to take to their constituents, to talk about, what was going on. Would this be a good coin? And so because they were there, they ended up in a lot of really big collectors' collections, right? They maintained in some very famous people's collections. And because of that, you'll see something on PCGS Coin Facts where the rarity goes to the 8 level. Now, when we talked about this, the last two things on the bottom is looking at the R8 to R10 scale. This goes from the PCGS Coin Facts. It's an addition to the scale that's being used. But the purpose for this was to determine the difference between varieties and grades based off of what they consider to be their surviving the surviving number in that particular grade. So it gets a little bit confusing when you're talking about that. If you have questions, see you later, Miss Coin Crew. Frosty, the best treatment for dry mouth is eating the chocolate and the coin. Yeah, exactly. But again, when you're looking at these particular ones, if you're trying to understand the rarity or that, you probably need to talk to somebody knowledgeable. I get really confused with the different scarcity variability scales. One goes up, one goes down. They've added to one. One is for all coins. One is primarily for gold. So it gets pretty confusing. So if you have questions regarding those, or you see an R3 8.3, it's like, well, how in the hell can it have both? It's because of those universal scales and the gold scales and the PCGS scales and the variety scales. So just understand that there are some differences there. Now, these do have a premium quality and eye appeal associated with them. And because of that, you're going to see this represented in the values that they receive in this auction. Now, when you look at these, August 2021, a Proof 65 realized 228,000. In the same month, another one sold for 258,000 at Legend Rare Coins. In 2015, the gray sheet estimates this as 194,000 and notes that it's from a Proof 65 example from Heritage Auction. Now, most collectors will say that that particular gray sheet listing is undervalued. When you look at CAC, NGC, all of them are within about a $15,000 range for this. And then you have this really undervalued gray sheet. So this one, you'll see a slight difference there. But again, this is an iconic coin. And in the event of pattern coins that have a special kind of acceptance as, just being a normal coin, this is by far Frosty's top pick for amazing coins in this collection. Now, because of that, I don't want to degrade any of the other ones. And there are other coins that are potentially more expensive than that one. It's just, God, you got to love that coin. I mean, come on. It's absolutely gorgeous. All right. And again, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please do so. For the person that just subscribed, it didn't show your name across here, but thank you so much for subscribing. I definitely appreciate the support. Make sure you guys are smashing that like. I only see 37 likes with over 40 people in here, so let's be smashing that likes, please. All right, let's talk about the 1796 over 5 cap bust. Again, this is a half eagle, BD1, rarity 4+. Again, when we're looking at the rarity 4+, we get up there into the smaller numbers. Again, under 80 in MS63. This coin is really unique as it was only 1 year until, or it was only 1 year. Now, this is obviously another overdate. This is the 96 over 95. Now, again, I tried to pull out coins for you guys in this 36 coin set that would be remembered or would be unique for a very specific reason. And this one is really, really cool. And when I see this, again, this is one of those things that I know, like Jack Riley, and I see Ash is in here, Eric, uh, these folks that like this stuff, Pedro, these guys are going to go, oh, that is so cool. And this, yeah, Mike, 10 by 5, yeah, exactly. This is one of those things that's really unique. And the thing that I liked about this particular coin, the reason this coin made this is that this coin was unique in minting history. Okay. This is really, really uncommon. And why was that? Well, it's because when you look at the coins, you'll see the stars and you'll see no stars. You'll see olive branches, no olive branches. You'll see the Pharyngean cap, and you'll see a lot of different things. But what makes this coin unique is that the total circulation of this was 6,196 pieces. But hold on, 1,000 to 2,000 of these only bore the 1796 date, meaning that the remainder of these coins bared the 1795 date. So there was obviously only one pair of dies for 1796 and 1795. It is a BD1, but it's only one die pairing. That means this die made 2 full year runs with no changes, all except for the date. And it's unique in that fact. It's there were a lot of things where the obverse changed, or they changed a design element, or they changed stars, or they did something. But this one, again, it's the same die pairing that minted both the 1796 and the 1795. This gold coin is something that you'll hear us talk about frequently in trivia when we talk about gold coins and the 1796 eagle, the half eagle. We actually talk about this. Siren, what's up? I see all the colorful things pop up. I know you're in chat. Thank you for being here, my friend. Hope you're doing well. We talk about this because the 1796, 1795, it happened with the dollar as well, where they utilized the same ones to do this. Again, it was a very common thing early on in the mint because you're talking about minting such small numbers. But they didn't always mint in the year it was created, and 1796 is one of those years. So you'll hear this in coin trivia. If I'm not mistaken, Mike, did you guys utilize this, or is this part of one of the tests that you guys took when you were at the coin show in Chicago? I remember the test. I don't remember if that was one of the questions. If not, I know that it's one of Paula's questions, and maybe that came from Paula. But it's just a fabulous coin. So how rare is this thing? Well, again, it's rarity 4+, meaning that you don't remember. No, no worries. When you're looking at this one, you're talking about a very small run between 20 and 80 coins that are still known to be in existence. These are all estimates. Again, folks, we don't know the exact numbers. Really hard when you get coins of this type because of the melts and, overstamping or people melting them down for other things. But when we talk about the value of these, a CAC example sold at $160,718. A 6/5 in the 63 grade Stacks and Bowers at the Brent Polk collection. Again, you'll see that name a lot. In AU55 sold at 48,000. So again, depending upon what condition, 40,000 to $160,000. This is one of the higher grades. There are a couple grades that are a little bit higher, but this is one of the conditional rarities that definitely is going to be here. Dan, she had a procedure, and so she's going to be out for just a little while. She's doing okay. She had to have something done with her eyeballs. So again, do me a favor, just reach out to her. Go to one of her videos and just tell her you're thinking about her, or stop into the Facebook and just tell you guys are thinking about her. She'll greatly appreciate the thought. But yeah, she'll be back in a little while. She needs some time for recovery, so she'll be back in our chat soon. But anyway, I just wanted to share this coin with you because again, just unique stories. 1833. Again, we go backwards. Now, why is this one here? Check out the rarity. Rarity 6. This is extremely rare. And again, when we look at the quality of the strike on this one, MS65, not only is this one of the top pops, but the rarity on this is through the charts. Now, if we go back up, and I'm not going to go back to the very beginning, I'll just pull it up and read it to you. Rarity 6, we're talking about very rare. We're talking about 13 to 30 coins for this particular one. And so it's important to understand how freaking rare we're actually talking about that. We're not talking about very many of these coins at all. So this is definitely something that I wanted to share with you. This particular coin was developed or done at the Philadelphia Mint with a closed collar press. Now, prior to this, all of them were featured an open collar. Now, they didn't really have consistent diameters. Now, Eric said that a little bit earlier, that some of the coins were a little bit different. Some were bigger, some were smaller. What's up, Kevin?
Different size, stuff like that.
Yeah, so there were a lot of changes. But this is one of the first ones that was actually struck with a closed collar. Again, another great trivia piece of information there, if you're looking for that. And they had kind of really interesting things that happened in the Coinage Act of 1834. Now, we talked about this a little bit, but there were some things that happened regarding the survival of the coins, and that was the registration reduced the weight of the gold. Now, I mentioned this before, but this was the last coin in that series. There was another 1833, but this is the last coin in this particular series that actually had that 0.9167. It actually changed a year after this. And yeah, so it was, well, Chad, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people interested in this, so I'm sorry you don't care. But a lot of really neat things come from this particular item. So when we look at the rarity of this, there were a bunch of pieces struck in this particular style. Okay, between 75 and 100,000 pieces were done. But why is this a rarity 6? Well, it's a rarity 6 because it's a conditional rarity. Condition matters. Now, we can talk about the strike. We can talk about the quality of the fields. We can talk about, the reverse. We could talk about stuff like that. Tripwit, that is the Phrygian cap. The Phrygian cap we talked about earlier. The Phrygian cap was, we did a lot of stuff early with respect to our appreciation for the governance of Rome, the Republic of Rome in particular. Julius Caesar, we look at the way things were governed. We looked at the Senate. We took the Senate idea, obviously, from them. And from that, there were a lot of things regarding freedom, independence, strength, the utilization of the Phrygian cap, the utilization of Caesar's wreath. We see the laurel on a bunch of coins. There's a lot of Roman, what's the word I'm looking for? Influence in our early coinage. You'll also see a lot of French influence in our early coinage. And so, but again, it just comes back to the general time frame. And when you look at what was happening during that specific era, that specific genre, we were pulling our government from something that was already established and something that lasted for 1,000 years, and that was the reign of Rome. Again, when we're talking about the rarity here, again, you're going to see the PCGS rarity scale for this particular one. It jumps up to a 9 or a 9.5 for 60. Now, in this particular one, this is exceptional. So when you look at that PCGS thing, it says 9.9, meaning that this is almost one of the extremely top pop rarities. Obviously, there are onesie twosies that are out there that fetch a 10. But this particular coin, based off of the PCGS rarity, does come in at a 9.9. So again, pulling some of those coins out for you that are just basically, just a couple of the entire mintage. um, so again, it's just important that I shared this with you. It's just neat stuff. It's a lot of fun. Historically, these things have sold anywhere between 150,000 to 1.3 million. Now, one of the curiosities about this particular coin is who buys this, who wants this, and why is that? Well, because when we look at the two collections, the A&A in May of 2005 sold one of these 150,000. Now that one was a 65, and you're talking about 2005. Price of gold was cheaper. The market was doing really well. However, there were some financial issues that had just been recovered because of 2002. So there was some intrepidation about what was happening during that time frame. But the most recent one, the most substantial sell at 1.3 million, it's going to be different. And one of the reasons for that is because of the slight differences in the varieties. Now we talked about that. The proof, the business strike underscores how the public, that the people that are buying this, the market for this really is nuanced, right? So the value for this, this is one I don't know. I have no idea where this one can go, but I can tell you that if this one takes off, we could easily see $1 million coin. So I'm really following this one closely just because of the conditional rarity of this coin. I'm really, really interested. I bid $1,000 on the coin just so I would get notification of what the final bid was. It's already surpassed that. So, but anyway, you'll see some fun stuff in there. And by the way, I have no belief that I was even close with bidding that. I just did it so that I could get a personalized notification when the item sold. Stacks and Bauer. All right, here's the next one. Now, I'm going to be showing you two Indian head sets, or two Indian head golds, back to back. One of them is a conditional rarity, but the other one I pulled in just because of the quality of the strike. And again, holy smokes, I'll show you this in just a second. You'll see exactly what I mean. So I want you to pay very close attention to the strike of this coin, okay? Now, when we talk about grading is something that is extremely important because when you're talking about grading coins, there's a couple of things that you need to remember. Not all coins, even in the same series, grade the exact same way because you can have a change in the die. You can have a change in the die pairing. Like you can actually have the obverse changes, and all of a sudden now you have a really nice obverse and a weak reverse. You can have the whole die pairing change, a whole brand new die set, and you can have the following year. You can have a really solid strike of some amazing items. Now, I often talk about the 1926S Lincoln cent about the conditional rarity. And if you find one of those in a high value, holy crap, the price goes through the roof, even more so than the 1909S BDB. So strike really matters. So I really want you to pay attention to this one and then the next coin. But what makes this one so unique? And that is the wire rim. So the wire rim was originally designed, it was the brainchild of somebody named Augustus St. Gaudens. Now, he had adapted a female portrait that was wearing an Indian war bonnet, which was the original conceived idea for the double eagle. Now, we know the Gaudens double eagle as the Standing Liberty standing there with the flying eagle on the reverse. But this actually was the original conceived idea for the double eagle. It features a stylized Indian, obviously facing left. You got the stars there. You got the United States on the America, $10 on the reverse. And again, you have the various legends and stuff that are there. And there are two diagnostic features on this particular coin that make it collectible. One of those is the wire edge, or that knife rim. This is a really sharp swirling item that has visible lines in the field. You have that rolled rim variant, which is the lower relief, but you have this really high relief piece that is the wire rim. And this is where I told you earlier in the thing, and if you came in late, then I apologize. You probably aren't tracking this, but when you're looking at the listing here, you'll see something called CQM. And this is where we talked about that conditional rarity, that thing where they could judge it sight unseen. And this is another one of those groups that put the sticker on these slabs that say, we could confirm. We say that this is exactly what it states. This is exactly what it's called for. We've checked the provenance. We've checked the items. The markers are right. The quality is there. We confirm this. It's kind of like the CAC stickers, right? Except this is for extreme rarities. So when you see that CQM, now this is what's funny. This is a CAC piece, and it's got a CQM sticker. Normally we think of PCGS with a, or CMQ. Sorry, thanks, Mike. CMQ. Normally we see a PCGS with a CAC sticker. Well, now we have a CAC with a CQM or CMQ sticker. I can't CQM. I don't know why. CQM is clinical quality measurement or clinical quality management. What I work in. So CQM is just going to be a default to my eye. So I apologize. This is CMQ. But again, we look at this now. Why is this important? Well, we'll talk about 542 examples that were struck in this particular one, 1907. But this one, the mintages get wonky. Why did the mintages get wonky? Well, because there were 42 additional coins struck in 1907 in September. And later on in the year, they struck some more. And then of these, 70 coins were melted during the First World War as a result of the pieces that were going on. Oh, gift membership. Thank you so much, Trip. I appreciate you. Austin received that. Outstanding. Very cool. Thank you so much, Trip. I appreciate the gifted membership. And again, I really do appreciate all your supports. If you're watching this, again, consider subscribing. Only 70 away. Ooh, so close. But I appreciate all you guys' support. When we look at this, there was something that was, I lost track of where I was. Oh, mintages. Okay. So there were about 70 of these coins that were melted. So while the strike says that there were 542 examples, there actually are more likely only about 472 pieces of. Now, these are very collected. And if you look at NGC's top 50, you're going to see that these Indians are some of the top counterfeit coins ever. And there's a couple different reasons. It's because there are other gold coins that were overstruck with this design because of their numismatic and collectible value. The other Indian series was often because you have other gold coins that were done. Those coins would be melted down. They would melt them. They would count. They would use the real gold. Maybe they would mix it with something. So maybe instead of it being 67%, maybe it was 50%, but they would still use gold. It tests correctly because it is gold, but it's a counterfeit coin because it's not authentic. It's been retooled. They've re-dyed these. There are some things that you can look at, various tooling marks and marks in this particular coin. But you'll see that this Indian head is very, very highly counterfeit. So if you're looking at buying one of these, and you can find one of these, obviously maybe not in the MS64 Plus range, but you can find some of these at lower grades, and you can find them for fairly decent prices for collecting. So if you want one of these, be very careful. Buy from trusted sources.
Pardon me.
Again, say again.
I said, excuse me, I had a hiccup.
Oh, no worries. You want to make sure that you're buying these from trusted sources. So honestly, if you're in the market for one of these, you're actually looking to buy one of these, reach out, let me know. We'll get you connected with somebody who can make sure that you get a really good, solid coin. And again, one of them, Mike, is in chat with Harlan J. Burke. You can always reach out to him. Mike, if you want to throw your email in chat, you can go ahead and do that. But again, when you're looking at the Indian head, this coin, you want to make sure that you check very, very careful. Even in slab coins, again, it's highly, highly counterfeit. So you're going to want to make sure you do your due diligence when looking at buying one of these. Now, let's go to this one. Now, okay, let's go back and forth. We're going to go back and forth for just a second. I want you to look at the strike on this one. Look at the strike. Look at the strike. Look at the strike. Look at the strike. The 1908, I had to put in here, thanks, Mike, for throwing that in there. I had to put this in here. Not only is it a top pop at MS68, it's amazing. The quality of the strike on this, and if you look at the reverse, that reverse is clean as hell. The feathers in this, the solid Liberty, the date, this is a fabulous coin. This thing could have came off the minting press last year. I mean, it's that nice. It's very, very beautiful. And when you look at it, this is kind of what you're used to seeing when you see the Indian head cent, or the Indian head cent, the gold Indian, right? I have not seen a coin, one of these in this quality. This is fabulous, folks. This is a beautiful, beautiful coin. And because of this, obviously that high grade is going to fetch some amazing things. Now, this is one of those that in these high grades, again, designed by Augusta St. Gaudens, this is one of those coins that was melted because of something that, okay, let's do this for real quick. If you consider yourself a stacker, put a 1 in chat. If you consider yourself a collector, put a 2 in chat. Okay. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because collectors know about this, stackers dwell on this. Okay. Southern Coin Hunter finally hit the 1K mark. Congratulations, Southern Coin. Mike is a 3. David is a 3. Yeah, well, they sell them, and the other one just likes looking at them. Pedro says, I'll do whatever it takes to get the right ones. Yeah, so we have some stackers. We have some collectors. Siren is a 1. OC's like, hey, I just collect what I collect. Yoxnav is a 1. But why do I say this? Well, we all know of the travesty that happened in 1933, where President Theodore Roosevelt did the artistic devaluation of gold, pulled that out, says we're going to do the confiscation, and then pulled them back. The Indian Eagle in this, 341,000 pieces. Many of these succumbed to the impact of mass meltings that occurred of the gold recall in 1933. So the fact of the matter is we know about how many of them were melted. There's U.S. Mint kept a pretty good track record of these. Unfortunately, what we don't know is how many people, when they had that try this again. Let me take a drink of coffee, folks, of coffee. Let me clarify that. When we look at that pre-33 snafu, right, with that callback of gold, how many people actually melted these on their own accord and hid the coins, or they buried the coins, and some of these are lost, just waiting to be found, right? So in that case, I'm a 0. Now, we've talked about this, Mike. You're a collector, though. You still collect certain things. They're just different things. Mike's a dealer, so if you're looking to get your fix, go see Mike. But when they talk about the surviving samples, the best estimate that PCGS can give is there's about 11,750 of these. And when you look at the provenance of these, they say there's about 7,500 of these that are 60 or better, but only about 300 that are in 65 or better. Once again, we look at something that is a conditional rarity when we look at the MS68 condition, and that is extremely important. So how much money are we talking? Well, the last one that sold in 2013, $58,750. Excuse me, the last one was in 2010, which was $63,000. So what is the likely of this one? Again, it's hard to say, but I would estimate this one to go anywhere between $50 and $100,000, especially when you look at the quality of the strike. And folks, I've got to tell you, out of all the coins in the 12 that I'm showing you, this is by far the strongest, best strike in any of these. It is the prettiest as far as the strike. It is not the most compelling coin, but it is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And the last one that I'm going to show today is Rick Springfield's favorite piece, known to be by many as the most beautiful coin that was ever created. Now, I want you to think about when we look at this particular coin, that this was not the original idea that Augustus St. Gaudens had for the double eagle. It was actually this one. Yeah, Jesse's Girl, Rick Springfield, is selling 36 coins. It's a phenomenal one. This was the original design for this coin. And so they actually utilized this a little bit later on. And this is the 1907. Now, this is not the dated one. This is the one that actually has the Roman numerals. Again, we talked about Roman influence. Again, we have the Roman numerals here. This is a very highly counterfeit coin as well, because not only for its gold value, but value in general. Obviously, this is not the top pop when you're looking at the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle, which is a $20 million coin. This one doesn't quite have that price tag. This one is expected to go somewhere between the $210 to $700,000 mark. So this one could fetch as much as $750,000. Jesse's Girl, Rick's favorite piece. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know that that song is his favorite piece, but I know that Rick Springfield didn't get Jesse's Girl because he was too busy looking at coins. He had an amazing eye for quality and really looked at the collection. One thing I don't know, and I've been trying to find this out, I actually reached out to A&A, haven't heard a response yet, was why was he selling these? That was a really good question I would like to find. Wasn't able to find the answer on that. But again, this is the as famed as the most collectible, the most beautiful coin in all of the U.S. arsenal. Extremely high relief. Again, you're talking about that wire rim, that really high relief, beautiful piece. You got the sun rays behind. The sun rays actually are a common point to look at when you're looking at counterfeits. Yeah, freaking fabulous. There's a really interesting thing about these coins. If you look at the Eagle's Talon, back in the Eagle's Talon, there is a very famous counterfeit that has the little Omega symbol. And it's called the Omega Man. That happens in the $20 gold pieces. So if you're ever looking at the reverse, the gold coins, look inside there and you'll see the Omega Man. It's fun, interesting factoid when it comes to the $20 gold pieces. Now, there were some things about this particular coin in order to achieve the desired effect. So the first thing was it could take up to 9 strikes in order to achieve that. The presses, even though they were high relief, they were still really pronounced, but they struck this a number of times. You get this really, 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 really deep, beautiful high relief strike. And a lot of people don't realize, you think about 1 or 2 presses. This one could have been struck up to 9 times. I thought that was really interesting. When you look at the common ones, it could have taken up to 5 strikes in order to achieve this. But this high relief, it was up to 9. It's absolutely fabulous piece. Now, the business strike of this, there were about 11,250 pieces, with some sources saying that the proof mintage was very limited. I think it was under 25. And again, upon their release, everybody and their brother was wanting these. They were very sought after. But again, that 1907 high relief wire rim was not intended to have this design. And I didn't know that until searching for this. So when we're looking at this, we look at the various grades. There's 8,000 examples of this known, all within various grades ranging from good all the way up to, the 65. Now, there's only about 725 of these that come in at 65 or better, but this particular coin graded at MS67 plus. And again, when we're talking about the value of this, the highest value ever sought was 660,000, but that was for an MS69 example. That was the auction record. This is a 67 plus, so again, it's not uncommon for this coin to, or unlikely, I should say, for this coin to fetch, a $500,000, maybe get up close to that $750,000 mark. And again, the higher this coin goes, the more valuable that MS69 example is going to be. So there'll be a lot of interested eyes on this particular one. Again, as we look at the coins that we've shown, not only the historical events, but the coin survival really does matter when we talk about the value that these are going to go for. We talk about the Coinage Act of 1834, the changing of the value of silver and gold, the changing of the issues with the amount of gold being held inside of each one of these. The gold recall of 1933 definitely affected the value of many of these. And then again, depending upon who graded them, whether it be NGC, PCGS, CAC, or if it has that CMQ designation, they just offer the various levels of the vetting for experts. And again, when you look at that CAC certification for PCGS, that won't hold the same value as a CAC slab with CMQ designation. And so again, when you're looking at the rarities, it really does matter. So what are the considerations to think about when you're looking at these? Well, I don't think it really matters to us. I don't think any of us are going to be bidding on any of these. But the aesthetic appeal, when we look at some of these, you look at the quality. Rick Springfield had an eye for quality. And I've got to tell you that looking at all of these and looking at what was presented, looking at there's 36 coins. So I am going to share something else. I'm going to go ahead and pull up. I'm going to show you some of the other ones really quickly. As we look at some of these, I'm just going to show you these particular coins. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen for just a second and pull up the Stacks and Bowers one. And we're going to kind of just be looking through some of these. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I put a lot of time and effort into putting this together for you. I had so much fun doing this. Looking at the quality of coins, but again, you're looking at these, they show these, they go through the provenance. I am going to throw this in chat. This is where you can go. You can navigate to this. And this is where you can pull all the information up. All of the coins, the information that I pulled up through here, this is the interview that he had. Go watch that. It's like 5 minutes long, but you'll learn a lot of cool things about what was going on with his collection. But I want to point you to a little small place in here, and that is this right here. If you click on auction preview, you can click on the auction preview, and this will actually take you to the Stacks and Bowers. Again, when you're looking at some of these, you're looking at the rarities. You can click on each one of these, and you can go down and look at the provenance on some of these coins. Come on, open. There you go. You can see a lot of this information. I've read through all of these, pulled up a lot of information from all of these. I pulled up some information from PCGS and NGC. But you can read all of the information yourself. If there's one you really want to look at, go ahead, take a look at it. This was obviously the first coin that I showed. Again, you can come down through here and you can see some of the coins that are here. You can see some of the values that were done. I told you that I bid on one of these. I bid it, just do it. It already went up above. I knew it was going to go higher. I just wanted to do it so I could keep a track record of what was happening with all of these. But you can see the various coins that are in here and some of the extreme values. Again, looking at the Stella, man, I just got to tell you, just some of these coins are phenomenal. The 1834 Classic Head, Plane 4 65 plus, Rarity 3. And again, when you look at like this one, this is the one that I put the $1,000 bid. Somebody came over and put $100 over me. But I just want to track this one because this is the one that I'm really curious about the top value. I'm really interested to see where this goes. And I thought this would be fun to just kind of go over, give you guys the provenance of the coins, talk to you a little bit about the history. You know, God, some of these coins are just phenomenal. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Eric, we'll pull this off. We can do some chit chat. If you want to hang on for a little bit more, we can just generally chat. But I hope you enjoyed that. Like, seriously, this was, it was fun for me to do. It was fun to go over these, talk about the rarities. Like I said, I only chose 12 of the 36. So go check and look at the other coins at your leisure. Again, do me a favor. If you like this, smash that like button. We're almost at 50 likes. If you are watching this and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're only 70 away from 6K. I definitely really want to get there. So do me a favor. If you enjoyed this, share it out. If you know somebody who wants to see more about this kind of stuff, or if you find one of these coins that you're like, Frosty, just talk to me about this, tell me more about this coin, let me know. I'll be more than happy to do some more research and pull out information. I'm going to be monitoring the sell of these coins very, very closely. I'm going to actually ask Stacks and Bowers if I can get approval to second stream their auction, and not do a full-on stream about this, but actually just kind of track some of the key elements. Obviously, everything will go back to them. It'll be non-monetized, but just see if I can do that without getting strike, see if I can get a permissions to do that, because I really want to do that. The video link earlier is for this chat. I sent a news coverage for all suitable air here. See that? Hold on. The video link I sent earlier is for this chat. It's news coverage of Harlan J. Burke. Oh, got you. Okay, so let me pull that up. Oh, that's the Yorktown. That's a great one. I watched that story. I watched that as well as looked at the coins. You guys know I'm Navy, well, ex-Navy, and so these are some really ones. Let me grab that, and I'll put that in there. Got to send that to myself. Yeah, Russ did an amazing job doing that, doing some of the research, identifying some of that stuff. What you guys did with that was amazing. Yeah, let me put that in here. RDA, Frostbyte, you did a great job with this. Thank you for taking the time to show us. Hey, I appreciate it. And folks, if you don't know that about me, I love doing research. I really enjoy it. No, I don't just say that to sound whatever. I really enjoy finding stuff and being able to get it to you. It really is something that I find exciting. I like being able to teach. I like being able to establish relationship and networking and talking about those types of things, but I love to learn. So anytime I can learn something and do that, I will definitely do so. Mike, give me just a minute because I've got to email this to myself and then pull it up on link because it's on the phone. You can always throw the link in chat if you want to as well, Mike. That might actually be faster. Please feel free to post that if you want to. And you guys can go check this out. It's a news coverage from them finding some coins from the USS Yorktown. Fabulous, fabulous story. And Russ Bega and them got together, did some research, and found this. And Harlan J. Burke got some really cool media coverage. Really cool stuff. Oh, yeah, Mike, if you can just throw the link in there, bud. For some godly reason, making me do all the security stuff to get into my email. Somebody probably tried to access my email, so I've got to figure that out. So I'm not going to be able to drop that link. If you'll just drop that link in there, I would appreciate it. Oh, Eric, I want to show you before we do this. You guys see this coin?
Which coin?
The ship coin?
Ooh, yes, I love that coin.
Check this out. Look at this. It's holographic. And it changes. It changes to blue and stuff. I love that coin. I wish the U.S. Mint would get on and do something like that. Because, thanks, Mike. I got it. There's the link that he put in. Hey, what's up? Oh, excuse me. What's up, Joey Brown? Yeah, you guys know I love my ship coins. And I had to get this. This was really cool. I wish the U.S. Mint would do stuff like this. The quality of this strike, the quality of the coin, the fields, and then this reflective holographic stuff is so freaking cool.
There's a bunch of them, actually.
Did I just rob?
Whole series of them.
Yeah, there is, and I need to get more of them. I like the tall ships. I like the old history of these. So it's really cool stuff. Joey Brown wants to know if I robbed Rick Springfield. No, I didn't. I actually just reported on an auction. I want to find out why he did that. Why is he selling those items? It's really curious if he had multiples of some of these or if
from what I understand, I was watching stuff while you were talking. Just says he's starting to sell some of the better items in his gold collection just to make it smaller.
And folks, he's 75 years old.
Yeah.
He's not a young pup. And so he might just want some young collections or young people to be able to enjoy it. You know, and I don't know. I really would like to find out. I do like
a true reason. That was his statement when he was saying that he started collecting the gold-plated chocolate coins, and then he moved up and he collects all sorts of coins. And he's got by no means is he selling his whole collection. It just says that he's selling some of his better gold coins. That's it.
Well, and one thing he said, and this was something that was said in the interview. Oh, vote for Pedro. I did. You guys know me. Anything that is ship related, I love that kind of stuff. But there was one thing in the interview that he did, and again, I post that interview. You want to go check that out. It's on the Stacks and Bowers page that they did where they talked about this particular element. The person asked him, what would you like to see? And he said, people who appreciate the coins being able to get the one. Right? And somebody who can really sit back and just know they're getting a good quality coin, know that they have this, and it's just that ship coin is from Canada, 9 for 9.
Is that 2005? One of the 3 2005 coins?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have you pull it up in just a minute if you have. Do you have it up?
No. I just was wondering. I looked it up and saw that there's ship coins basically from 2002 all the way to 2020.
Yeah, they have a ton of them. I've got another one from a different series that's really pretty off the share. I probably need to do an episode on nothing but my ship coins. I think that would be fun. But when they asked him, it's like, what do you want from this? He's like, I just want somebody who really enjoys be able to get it. Now, obviously, you're going to have a lot of money for some of these coins.
And that might be it. He might be saying, hey, I had it my time. It's time to let somebody else enjoy it.
Yeah. And so, but while most of us won't be able to afford it, I wanted to be able to at least share the history of it so people can appreciate the history. Because I'll tell you, a lot of people are like, well, his music was okay. His acting career and this stuff, it was decent. I mean, he's a good guy, but I got to tell you, there was no doubt that he had an amazing eye for collection. He knew what he wanted. He sought out extremely good varieties. He sought out extremely good quality. The rarity and the scarcity of some of these coins are amazing. And so just absolutely fabulous. It was really cool to see this. And I'm extremely excited to be able to, like I said, just be able to share that with you and go through and talk about, what happened, because, man, I am so looking forward to seeing where some of these coins end up. At 580,000.
These coins are the type of coins that rarely go down in value. Don't get me wrong. They do go down in value, but when people say, I want to invest in rare coins, this is the kind of stuff they're talking about usually.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind to let people know to come check it out, if you have seen anybody talking about it, I would greatly appreciate people sending it over here. That would be fun. But Mike, I always appreciate your guys' support. And as is always stated, I hope you get feeling better. I know you've been under the weather for a little bit. But again, your entire team has an open door. They can come in anytime they want to.
He's still battling that?
Yeah, he said it's been a few weeks now. And so
yeah,
they're trying to find out.
Had that damn COVID that was going around. That stuff was like, it just stuck with you.
No, he said it's not that. It doesn't show up as that. No flu, nothing like that. We talked a little bit about it.
Wow.
He says,
that's good though.
The problem with playing the video is that I'll get a strike because I don't own it, and it'll come across as media. I can try it, and then I can remove it. Let me see. I don't own that piece. I can try it. I can just remove it if I need to. If it comes across, I'll just remove it. So let me do that. I'm going to have to mute my microphone. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to have to mute my microphone when it comes up. Check and I'm going to start this and then I'm going to stop it. You guys tell me if you can hear the audio.
Coins with a colorful history will soon be heading to Washington, D.C.
Can you guys hear that okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to let it play out.
Yeah, they were discovered in the estate of a person from the Chicago area, thanks to the detective work of a local coin dealer. Here's Dane Placco.
A shipwreck mystery nearly 2 centuries old has now been solved by the folks here at Harlenberg Coins in the Loop, who will now be sending the booty back to the U.S. Navy.
This is a Mexican 8 reales. This is an 1830 U.S. half dollar.
Russ Vega shows us the 5 old coins that recently came into his shop, part of a larger cache of material from an estate controlled by the Cook County Public Guardian's Office.
They have a tag on them that says they're from the USS Yorktown. So,
by the way, if Paula was here, Paula would be drooling right now, just so you guys know. She loves Russ Vega, by the way.
Being who I am, I do a little bit of Googling, and I actually find out that these were looted from the ship.
The first USS Yorktown was a Navy sloop of war commissioned in 1839 that looks similar to this. In 1850, it was on patrol along the African coastline to stop slave ships.
Slaves were not allowed to be brought into the country anymore. And so to that end, the U.S. actually did do a fair bit of anti-slaving operations in the Atlantic.
But the ship hit a reef and sank. The crew was rescued, but the Yorktown and its belongings sat at the bottom of the ocean for 150 years until a Portuguese company discovered the wreck in 2000 and began salvage operations.
There is a law that was passed in 2001 that essentially says American naval vessels, no matter where they are U.S. soil, and when they sink, they're still property of the United States government. So the Navy is very interested in recovering pieces like this.
The Navy's History and Heritage Command has already recovered some of the Yorktown's loot that was being auctioned in London. Now, these 5 coins from a Chicago area collector will be reunited.
So I'm going to stop this real quick because there's an important thing that happens when it comes to U.S. military. Any U.S. military plane, ship, anything of that nature, even if sunk, still is property of the United States. So when you talk about going overseas, if you're on base, one of the things that is extremely important is that when you're on that base, doesn't matter if you're in Germany or France or you're in the Netherlands or wherever, if you're on a military base that's U.S., you're on what they call U.S. soil. A U.S. airplane and a U.S. ship maintains that same requirement. And so for these coins, they were actually pillaged from the ship, meant they were taken off of U.S. soil. They were stolen from U.S. property. And much like you see in certain countries like Egypt or maybe Greece, they have the right to recall these items. This is not something specifically to the U.S. This happens with other countries as well. So the reason that the U.S. Navy is able to go out and get these, or the reason that they found these 5 coins and they're able to get them back, is because they were under the ownership. They're under the property of U.S. government, even though that ship sank. So it's a very important distinction to let people understand why they were able to do this and why the U.S. Navy actively seeks these particular items. This is something that Russ and them talked about when they were talking about this particular item. But if you missed that article, just make sure you understand that's there. Roxzilla, I will let you ask them, not me, because I'm not going to get into the sticky wickets of legal provenance. But in this particular case, they were pilfered from the ship, and they know this because of the records. So anyway, back to it.
These are going to be returned to the Navy in the next week or so, and they should go on display in the museum in Washington, D.C. with the rest of the artifacts from the USS Yorktown.
Vega says the Navy was surprised when he reached out to report what he found, which is probably worth about $1,000.
We've been in business for 60 years, and we've made our name in honesty, integrity, and also making sure that important pieces like this can be enjoyed by more people.
Now, I want to stop this one more time. Honesty, integrity, honor, commitment, and courage are the core values of the United States Navy. So that statement actually carries a ton of weight within our military. And I've said this before to Mike and them, that one of the key elements, the reason that Harlan J. Burke has an open door to my channel, is that they show huge levels of integrity. And that's big with me. But when they contacted the United States Navy and they said that, hey, they had these coins, the level of integrity that the Navy identified that they represented was huge. This wasn't a minor thing, and this carries huge weight. The Navy will remember Harlan J. Burke. And again, you're talking about 1,000 coins. So we're not talking $1,000 worth of coins. You're not talking about a huge sum of money, but integrity carries way more weight than dollar any day.
This gets one person interested in collecting U.S. coins or collecting world coins. I think that pays dividends.
The Navy will not be taking any action against the person or the estate that originally obtained the coins. They consider it, if you will, water under the bridge. In the Loop, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
I like the pun there at the end. But yeah, really cool. And again, representing Harlan J. Burke, Russ Bega did an amazing job. You guys are studs. That was all property of Fox 32. I don't own the rights to that. I'll put in the specific details about this in the description below. Again, I don't have the ownership to that particular video, but I did get permission from Harlan J. Burke to display it. So if there's any questions about that, then I'll make sure that I challenge that, or I'll just remove it later on. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Hopefully the commentary alleviates the straight play. But thanks for giving us that, Mike. No finder's fee, but I'll tell you what, the level of respect that the company got from the U.S. Navy is going to be huge, because Harlan J. Burke will most likely be displayed next to the recovery of these coins when they display these. They will honor them, and they will honor their integrity as such. So I'll be interested to see when they get put on displayed how it talks about the recovery. I'll bet you that they're labeled as such. But again, this just goes to show the integrity of the company. I think it's fabulous. Great story. What about you, Eric?
About?
The story.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Love all stuff like that. And about, I think, Rockzilla, I think that when you go to the legal stuff from the Atosha and the Margarita from Mel Fisher, I think there is a proximity to the wreck, because you got to remember, these were wooden ships. There's no wood left. They just know it's the ship from stuff that's, metal pieces and stuff like that. And if there is wood left, there's very little of it to identify the ship.
Yeah, that's a good
More of a
point.
proximity issue than anything.
Yeah, and again, I'm not going to quote any legal about that, but
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I know that I've done seen a little bit of Mel Fisher stuff, and I've done a little bit of playing around with looking into his discoveries, and it seems like the one ship, it's like spread out over miles and miles and miles, and yet it's still in the same claim.
See, Mike. So Mike asked a really good question. Why should somebody be rewarded for doing the right thing? That's a great question, Mike.
That's the reward in itself.
It is. And see, that's where, we talk about military core values. You don't have to be in the military to have core values. Doing the right thing when nobody's looking, that matters, right? Out of all the things we own in life, what is the only thing we actually maintain? The only thing we actually maintain is our name. Everything else comes and goes. Money, wealth, legacy. But your legacy is tied to your name. The only thing you have in this life is your name. It's truly the only thing you own.
I don't know about everybody else, but when I do the right thing, I feel good about it. It makes me feel good. So why would you do something that kind of makes you feel bad? Do the right thing and feel good about it.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong. If somebody wants to give me $1,000 reward for turning a wallet with $5,000 in it, I'm not going to decline it. But it's not about getting that reward. But I will tell you, the reward that they got is public recognition by the media, saying that they did the right thing just because. The story that we just watched, the level of respect that has been had by the people, because again, in the story, it was very clear. The Navy was surprised when they got the phone call. Oh my God, a coin shop is calling us to say they doing something right. Me and my daughter, or no, maybe it was me and my son. We went to, are you familiar with the Michael's, the little, not an affiliate, not whatever, the arts and crafts place?
Sure.
So me and my son went in, we were doing Vote for Pedro's thing that he did, where he bid for my daughter's drawing. It had the cap and then the rifle and then the pair of boots. It was for the Wounded Warriors, and he did it. So we went and got it framed, and we walked out, and I sat down in the car, and I was like, did she charge us for the frame? He put the frame in, she did the mat. I was like, did she charge us for the frame? And he's like, I don't know. And we looked at the receipt, and I'm like, I don't think she charges for the frame. And so we walked back in the store, and she comes up and she's like, how you doing? She goes, what's wrong? And I said, I don't think he charges for the frame. And she's like, oh, well, I mean, the frame's only like $10. you know, you already left. And I was like, no, 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 we're going to pay for it. I don't want, that's not. And she looked at me and she's like, okay. She's like, well, thanks for coming back. And she did this and she filled out this stuff. And then she said, hold on just a second. And she came back through and she handed me another receipt just for a $25 credit.
There you go.
And I was like, well, no, you don't have to do that. I just was like, in the mix of things, I gave you a frame and I think you thought we paid for it already. We hadn't paid for it. And she was like, no, she rewarded that. Now it's $25. It'll buy me another frame, or it'll buy my daughter a couple things of canvases or whatnot. Not a big deal. It was just doing the right thing. And when we got back in the car, my son was like, that was the right thing to do. And I said, yeah, it was the right thing to do. And he felt better about me. I felt, good doing the right thing. And it was a $10 frame. It's not like it was a big ticket item. And sometimes it's just doing the right thing. I would have left that store there. Nobody would have known. But I would have known. My son would have known. And that would have been a problem. Cartier, been dealing with Harlan J. Burke since I started collecting. They have amazing reputation. And this just makes them look even better. Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, Jack. How are you, sir? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's the meaning of it all. That's exactly right. And so, again, integrity does matter. And, without integrity, what do you have? Again, you're only as good as your name. And I'll tell you right now, Harlan J. Burke, that name on that wall that's standing behind that gentleman is everything to that coin shop. His name means everything to them. Aaron's name means everything to them. His daughter's name means everything to her, right? It's extremely important. So the only thing we have in this life is our name. So we got to make sure we protect and maintain. Very cool. Well, folks, I got to tell you, it's 10:30. I don't feel like I've been on for 2 hours. It's been a lot of fun, but I'm going to go get me something to eat. And we are getting ready to get on the road. We're going to be going up north. We're going to help in some of the recovery efforts with Waco and Hunt and some of the other towns that suffered some of the atrocities from the floods. So we're going to get up there and do that. We got a couple hour drive ahead of us, so we want to make sure we get a few hours of good work in before it gets too dark. So I will be back tomorrow. Open forum. I know you're not feeling great, Mike, but if you want to come up or do anything like that, more than welcome. Bring your question, have your pictures. Oh, Sorcerer Stan just gifted 10 memberships.
Everybody's showing me up today.
You're a stud, man. Jeff Rubin, MLZB, Jay Smokes, Bill Snodgrass, Vincent Clay, Sean Witzel, Rob's Numismatic Archaeology, fairly new subscriber there. That's outstanding. Silver Tsunami. You all got gifted memberships by Sorcerer Stan. Stan, thank you so much for all the support, brother. I really appreciate you. A great member of the community. Very, very gracious. Talk about a person with integrity and value. That man embodies it. So thank you so much, Stan, for that. Very much appreciated. All right, Eric, I know you didn't talk much today, but thank you so much for being here.
Didn't have a lot to offer on this. This is kind of out of my wheelhouse, but I hope I added a couple interesting facts.
Oh, I just appreciate you being here. And again, folks, if you do me a favor, go check out he's a stub for sure. I'm sure that's supposed to be stud.
A stub?
Yes, Matt, he is a stud. I don't want to know anymore. But I appreciate you all being here. Again, if you haven't already done so, if you're a new subscriber, thank you for the 7 subscribers today. That's awesome. Go check out the coin contest. Go to my shorts and look at the coin contest. Make sure that you read the descriptions of some of those videos. We've got something going on in August, and you want to make sure you're a part of that. All right, folks. Well, hey, be well, be blessed. Thank you so much for being here. Share this widely. Thanks, everybody, for being in here, and we will see you in the streams. Take care.
See you in the next